Persona. Yes, I'm a Persona fan, but don't worry, I'm not here to tell you how much you'd like it if you played it. Originally, this video was going to be a review talking about how I believe the game is both the best and worst of its series. However, as I began to look back and review it, I found a more interesting take on the game's message, that being the importance of life and the life of those around you. To learn the importance of this, one must also come to accept the end of life. It may seem like a deep, intense narrative to cover, but it's actually kind of simple to understand. Let me start by talking a little about the game itself and how I got into it. After completing Persona 5 twice, I started gaining interest in its predecessors. I wanted more. There's something about time management that was so fun and addicting on top of the turn-based gameplay, but I didn't just want more, I wanted a challenge. That second run had given me an urge to play something frustrating and strategic. I'd spent some time in the community at this point, and I knew exactly what would grant my wish.
Soon, the end will come.
Do you remember the night you came here? You had to have noticed the signs.
What?
Didn't it feel like you were in a different time? That's the dark hour. We'd like you to lend us your strength.
A machine is created for a purpose. Mine is to defeat you.
Fate permitted me to live.
Shut up!
You might say I was chosen.
I've made up my mind. I won't let you do this to her anymore!
Only a select few wield the power of a persona. And the Dark Hour is a frontier that is ours alone to explore.
There's no telling what will happen if we don't do something about the shadows.
That makes you all hypocrites. Said shut up!
Don't look up.
We call them the shadows.
Yeah, so what?
What was that? I want to protect you.
To truly live, you will need to make changes sometimes.
The time has come for you to wield your power. Going forward, there is one thing you mustn't forget. You must accept your destiny.
Shall we begin?
Midnight's just around the corner.
Persona 3 FES is one of my favorite games. Perhaps even my favorite. It's also one of the most aggravating games I've ever played. Unlike 4 and 5, Persona 3 has some very outdated mechanics. Being a PS2 RPG, it's not the smoothest experience. However, what it lacks in gameplay, it makes up for in innovation and story. Like those after, the game starts you out moving to a new location all by yourself, this time the city of Iwatodai. A cutscene shows the city alive and full of people. As this is going on, we see a girl in some room holding what seems to be a gun to her head, before dropping it to the floor. The scene then zooms out and transitions to our protagonist arriving to his new home. Flashes of a butterfly appear on screen. This will be important later. Not too soon, and the city gains a strange atmospheric tone of green, as the walls and floors appear to bleed. All citizens disappear, and in their place, coffins. Being the cool main character, you're nearly careless to all this around you and continue to the dorm, where you'll be staying for the next year. Once there, a boy in prison attire greets you and has you sign some sort of contract. Who he is and what you're signing is unclear at this point. The only information given is that you're committed to taking full responsibility for your actions. He gives us a short speech about time, how you can't escape it, and how it delivers us all to the same end. It doesn't matter if you cover your eyes and plug your ears, you can't run or hide from time itself. He seemingly vanishes and you're then interrupted by a girl's voice. It's the one we had seen in the cutscene prior, coming off as on edge with the same weapon in her hand. She seems unaware of your arrival. Before acting without ration, she's told to wait by someone else. The situation calms down and we're introduced to two main characters. Yukari, the younger one in pink, and Mitsuru, the older one in white. They greet you to the dorm and appear to be completely without notice of any of the strange things seen before. You can even ask Yukari about the gun, and she'll tell you it's some sort of hobby, with Mitsuru contradicting, saying it's for self-defense and how it's not real. You're led to your room without any answers. The next morning, you're given a guide to the school you'll be attending, Gakukan High. While looking for homeroom, you'll meet your teacher, Miss Toriumi. By talking to her, the player learns the protagonist's parents were killed together in some sort of accident 10 years ago, giving some background to who you're playing as. After school, you'll meet another new character, this time a guy, Junpei Iori, the best comic relief character Atlus has done. Yukari comes along and you'll quickly tell they don't get along. Returning to the dorm without anything needing to be done, you sleep for the next day. A scene will play where Mitsuru is talking to a confident-looking guy we haven't seen up to this point, Akihiko, who seems to know something about the strange happenings. We also hear about something called apathy syndrome and how its cases are increasing. After the next school day, the game immediately returns you to the dorm. We find Yukari talking to another new face who introduces himself as the chairman of the board for the school, Shuji Akutsuki. He doesn't have a huge presence throughout the game, but is still important. He will confirm there's only 4 students living in the dorm, including the protagonist. After formalities, you have the option to mention you saw something strange the other night. Once again, your question is brushed off. Going to bed, it's revealed you're being watched by your dorm mates and the chairman. A cutscene will play showing us the dark hour, a transition in reality that occurs every day at midnight. During so, normal people change to coffins, and those that don't are fully aware and have 2 options. Option A, a sludge creature eats your brain, basically making you a zombie. This is the apathy syndrome we heard earlier. Those infected can pretty much just stand around and groan, not even retaining any thought to eat or drink, until they eventually pass. And option B, a persona user, which, after a trip to the Velvet Room and an incident under a full moon, our protagonist discovers he is, and it's quite the awakening. From here, the game proceeds to its core, spending time with social links to unlock new abilities and personas during the day, and dungeon crawling through Tartarus as a member of Seas at night for XP. But I didn't make this video to talk all about the gameplay. As I said when I started this game, I wanted a challenge, so I set the difficulty to high. 120 hours later, and I got more than that. Making the experience harder helped me get more invested in both gameplay as well as story. By the end of it, I had learned something. From here, I will be covering spoilers, so if you plan to play the game for yourself, I highly recommend saving this video for another day. Almost every character you meet in this game is struggling with some form of death. Yukari and Mitsuru the loss of their fathers, Akihiko his sister, Ken his mother, Fuka her friends, and Junpei the only girl that ever loved him. Any character not held back by these themes is under some form of guilt, like Aigis due to her correlation with the protagonist, and Shinjiro, who is responsible for the death of Ken's mother. Those are just the main characters. Most social links are also affected by the loss of someone close to them. Not only do they share a common theme of loss, but a failure to accept and progress themselves after. Only through the help of the protagonist are these characters able to embrace the past and enjoy every day of their future. This of course tying in with the overall message of the game, as well as the main story. The game's opening theme, well, original opening theme, Burn My Dread, isn't just a cool edgy name given to fit its aesthetic. Until writing this, it didn't even click for me, but when focusing on its title and lyrics, the meaning becomes rather obvious. I once ran away from the god of fear, and he chained me to despair. I will break the chain and run till I see the sunlight again. This time I'll grapple down that god of fear and throw him into hell's fire. Oh, I will run, burning all regret and dread, and I will face the sun with the pride of the living. The message is further given to the player with a Latin phrase, Memento Mori, appearing throughout the opening. Translated, it says, remember, you must die. As mentioned earlier, our protagonist lost his parents in an accident. Later in the game, it's revealed Aigis was responsible for this when fighting the Appriser of Nyx, the personification of death, Ryoji. Ryoji is a character that appears after defeating the 12 bosses that appear on each full moon. Ryoji takes many forms throughout the game. The first time we see him is as the boy we signed the contract with. Here, he takes the name Pharos. The second time is during the Awakening, as Thanatos. And finally, after escaping the protagonist's psyche, Ryoji. So, how does this connect to the game's message? Throughout the game, a cult keeps referencing something called the Fall, an event that will bring upon the end of everything. Until Ryoji is released and confronted by Aigis, no one has any idea what this means. Soon after Ryoji's true form, the Appriser of Death, is revealed, he is aware a being called Nyx will bring darkness and all life will vanish. Nyx is death itself, and there's no way to stop it. No amount of strength, ability, or power will stop time and therefore cease to stop death. They are synonymous. Everyone will suffer from apathy syndrome, leading to the inevitable extinction. However, by experiencing life through our protagonist, Ryoji delivers a choice to our main cast. If they are to kill him, they can live in peace, unaware of any memories of Nyx or the Fall. They will become ignorantly blissful. This is obviously the wrong choice, the easy way out, a way to avoid the problem and let it overtake you. Again, a way of expressing dread or depression. Everyone decides to let him live, and Ryoji disappears for good. As our main character is separated from Pharos, who had lived inside him, he is also separated from despair, but most importantly, his past. Now he is free, he can live a life without questioning and disturbance of the being that lived within him. In case you hadn't caught it yet, the protagonist's struggle with the boy is metaphorical of depression, or, at the very least, something holding them back, their past, their guilt. This is a turning point of the game's message, a point that will lead to the answer. With the split from all things holding one down, they can begin living their lives. By accepting all problems and handling them personally, life can become so much more enjoyable. Even if you constantly think about how you'll eventually leave this world and everything behind, simply accepting it and enjoying the time you have can rid you of almost all fear and dread. Embracing death as a natural part of life is the only way to embrace life itself. Being conscious of this balance is absolutely necessary to living. This is the answer of Persona 3. Ironically, the game displays this subtly by having you fight death itself, and not only fighting it, but knowing it, and having to wait a full month, aware of the impending end. During the final battle atop Tartarus, no matter how much effort is put into defeating Nyx, our main characters fail and find themselves in despair to Nyx's efforts. Through the belief of others, the protagonist sacrifices himself, and those around him are allowed to continue living their lives. Once the battle's over, the rest of the cast can hear both Ryoji and the protagonist's voices. In this moment, Ryoji says, he's found the answer to life's greatest question. It just happened a bit sooner than it will for the rest of you. Every point in the story you pass, every floor you climb in Tartarus, and every social link you talk to represents progress and experience in life. The hours you put into this game represents a life, and its ending shows effort and purpose. A lot of people compare this to a Messiah story, but I feel like that's overlooking the actual reasoning of the sacrifice. The character we play as is chosen to perform the Great Seal because he's the one that can put an end to the dread and suffering, or at least balance it with hope and passion. By defeating his own guilt and breaking his own chains, he's able to overcome any obstacle in the future, even the unstoppable force that is time and death. I also mentioned how the butterfly was important from earlier, but honestly it's more of a lore thing, and loosely represents the journey of the playthrough. It appears in every game, but I didn't want to just leave that hanging. This video took a lot of time and effort for me, and I hope to not only do more like this, but improve on it through the future. Thank you all so much for watching.